Okay, so today I want to talk about human rights or universal human rights and how they contribute to economic performance. Um, if we look at universal human rights, we look at them and we see they are designed really to develop human resources, to get the human resources to participate fully and to maintain their diversity. Those are universal human rights, are specifically for that. Now, not all human rights are universal. If we think about workers' rights, we're not thinking about universal human rights. So, workers' rights really are relative to the culture and to the situation a country is in. When we talk about workers' rights, we're talking about level of pay, um, holiday, hours of holiday, um, hours of work per day. So maybe there's a maximum hours of work per day, a minimum wage, and a minimum holiday, etc., etc. These are workers' rights, and they're very relative. We couldn't really have them universal um, because some countries are very, very poor and have very undeveloped human resources, and they just really can't ask for the same level of wages as Italy or Germany. You know, they really haven't got the skills, the infrastructure, the education, etc., to ask for this level. Remember, the world economy is not a planned economy, it's a total free economy, there's no one really planning it. And so we can't dictate on wages, because if we do, or holiday, etc., if we do, then basically some countries like Bangladesh would be just all unemployed. There'd be no one there to employ. It would be really, and you know, when we are very undeveloped, when Italy was very undeveloped, it couldn't afford a certain lifestyle. It had to ask 12-year-olds to work 13 hours a day. It's very relative when it comes to, you know, whether the people, young people in Italy, what age they have to start work, and in Bangladesh, what age they start work there. We're not talking about exploitation either, or abuse or anything like that, because basically these cultures, these countries haven't got much to offer, and they really need to work to build the infrastructure and build competencies and develop their human capital, etc. Just like we had to. If we send all the, if it's just charity and companies just go there and pay them lots and lots of money and it's just charity, in the end they become dependent and they're not really standing on their own 2 feet, and they'll just have to keep going in that way. But to really develop is quite hard. But universal human rights is different. Universal human rights, we're talking about what we consider a right which is part of us, inalienable. And so it's universal, it's for every single human being. You know, the legal system didn't even invent them or establish them. They're part of our human nature. So we're talking about freedom of speech, freedom to choose who we want to marry, to work as we want, you know, how many kids we want to vote, etc., etc. So these we consider are universal human rights, and these are the ones which I would say have really helped with economic performance, because they really have helped develop human resource, allowed human resource to participate fully and maintain the diversity of the human resource. If we look at a system without human rights, which is fascism, for example, or a totalitarian system, can call it communism, we can see that they really nurture obedience and conformity. So there's not going to be the diversity, and there's not going to be the participation, because if you just do as you're told, you're not thinking, so you're not even participating in the actual construction or you know, the innovation, the plans, the programs exist. You just do as you're told. So that's not going to allow all the human resources to participate and develop fully. So let's think about universal human rights. Let's break it down a little bit. First, we've got social rights. Social rights are education, health. In Italy, work is a social right, but also an economic right. It's also in the titolo economico, in the constitution, the economic title, but also it's in the fundamental principles, so it is considered something which really helps us integrate socially. These social rights basically are rights which allow us to integrate and participate fully into society. And here we can see the human resources developed in education, for example. We're developing human resources, hopefully to their full extent. In a dictatorship, the education will be more indoctrination. You won't be teaching kids to think and to analyse and to question and to open their minds. You'll be really closing their minds and teaching them what to think. I remember in Iran, the burqa was taught as an instrument of freedom. It was taught that women could be free from the eyes of men. So it was kind of a symbol of freedom, whereas for us, we would question that, and it seemed natural to question that. It sounds a bit more like the burqa sounds a bit more like you're reducing the personality of somebody, just putting something over their face rather than being free. So these social rights develop, and also the health. I mean, if you've had an accident or you've got an illness, you're not going to be participating fully in the economy. So we've got these social rights to help us back, and we know the third world countries are particularly inhibited and impeded by the lack of education and health. Some countries also have millions and millions unemployed, and that really is a waste of resources. They could be producing, even if they're not producing much, they could be producing something. So we should see these social rights as helping with economic performance. And also economic rights. There are universal economic rights. For example, private property. Private property really motivates people to work. I know private property is very valued in the Anglo-Saxon cultures, for example, America, and people work so hard because they want to own so much. They want a Ferrari and a big house, and they want to kind of elevate themselves above others, and they compete hard for this private property. And I think that does, without that right, if you don't own anything, you're not going to get the most out of people. If we saw that in the communist system, where property was, private property was really inhibited. One of the problems was motivation. And another economic right is economic initiative. By allowing people to open economic activities, to decide, instead of Rome deciding, I decide to open a shop or to sell this or that, or that people want this, want bigger cars or smaller cars. By making the decisions ourselves, we can see the opportunities much better than someone sitting in an office in Rome. And that is the big problem if you haven't got this economic initiative as a right. People can't make decisions sitting in an office, designing and planning the economy in a very abstract way. It needs really millions participating in deciding what to produce, how to produce, and who to produce for. That was one of the great, empowerers of the free economy, was the fact that people were motivated to look at the economy and think, what can I make money from, and then choose how to improve the economy, and so at the same time profit from that. So those are political rights. Now those were economic rights. Political rights, I would say, really helps create a culture of empowering the bottom. So you've got the top. Now, if the top is very empowered, if people are just used to waiting to be told what to do by a very authoritarian government, they will have that culture at work. They will be just told what to do. Now, in those situations, you're not going to really get the ideas from people. You're not going to get all the different perspectives, you're not going to create this big brain, this big collective brain. You're just going to have a few people at the top with their limits, looking at problems and coming out with their solutions, which might be literally throwing away all the enrichment you could have by utilising all the other resources, human resources. So I think by giving people political rights, by allowing them to choose their governments and to really feel empowered, we actually create a culture where we don't see authority as being above any rules, as being the almighty. We see authority as just literally just leading us, but also listening to us. So we do expect some empowerment, and then I think we can see things from a 360-degree angle. So all the dimensions we were able to spot and come out with lots of solutions. As for civil rights are here. We've got freedom of speech, freedom to protest, all our personal freedoms. Here, this really helps us develop diverse human resources because it allows us to really be ourselves. It encourages us to express what we think and how we see things. And I think this, again, will go into the economy, into our work cultures, and we will be used to just questioning things, being more open-minded, looking at things in different ways, and not just obeying and conforming, really, trying to contribute our diversity and so enrich the human resources. And we're all different, so we can all enrich. Now, a dictatorship, so without human rights in a totalitarian system, you could do very well as an agricultural economy or even as a manufacturing economy where we produce things like a machine. So if, I don't know, in the agricultural economy or we can take these resources from the ground, but in a manufacturing economy we can produce these millions and millions of them. But can we do what a tertiary economy requires, which is think of ideas, which is really try to be creative. Remember, maybe I've got to brand this, create some brands, like Coca-Cola or something, or for a car Ferrari. That is where the real value is. Or maybe a programmer or a designer or an engineer. This is all about service economy, all the real creative side of the economy. So that is where you really need the human resource development and participation and diversity. And if we do progress in human rights, we will find that economy will follow us. So it's normally the human rights that go forwards first. Some economies, like Afghanistan, maybe the women can't go to education or they're not allowed to work. Some, they've got problems with health, problems with education. But once you get those human rights, that human right blueprint working, we will progress economically because peace will come as well. That's another very important part of human rights. Peace and then prosperity should follow with these human rights.